Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. We've got Penn State versus Notre Dame, the preview video for you on tap. Chris, I'm going to start us off again for 3 weeks in a row taking Notre Dame. Now, I'm not going to do what I've done the last 2 weeks here. I'm not just going to brush over them like whatever. Look, I want to go ahead and say on behalf of all Georgia fans to the Notre Dame faithful here, you guys beat us fair and square. You know what I mean? And hats off. You know, I know a lot of people are going to make excuses. Well, 3 plays here, 2 plays here. Look, I don't give a shit. All right. You guys beat us. If you look at the NFL, oftentimes those games are decided by a field goal or less. And the margin of victory and the margin of error in those games is 2 or 3 plays in those games that make the difference. And Notre Dame did exactly what a professional like team would do. And they made less mistakes and they were able to capitalize on the mistakes Georgia made. So hats off to them. The things that I saw in that game, Notre Dame's defense, obviously, as we know, just like Penn State, just like Georgia, whatever have you, they're legit. Notre Dame has a legit defense. We know that. Riley Leonard, did he wow me at times throwing the football in that game? Not really. But what he was able to do is he was able to get out, create things, and then that kind of forced them to start having to make a man commit to him. As that game went on, what Notre Dame was able to do was they were able to out-scheme Georgia, I felt like, at points in that game. That's going to have to come into play here against Penn State. Jeremiah Love got kind of banged up there towards the end of that game. We'll see if he's going to be ready to go in this one. I'd have to think he would want to play, obviously. But Notre Dame, I mean, both Penn State and Notre Dame are kind of built the same way, I feel like, in a lot of different regards here. What Notre Dame has been able to do, Chris, is again, they don't throw the ball for 1,000,000 yards a game. They don't have to, as Notre Dame fans will allude to in the comment section or have told us already. They can run the football. Riley Leonard can get out and make some things happen with his feet. Which I think is good enough for them. When they do throw the ball, they get what they need when they need it, which I think is the most important thing. A lot of people coming into this game, they're going to look back at the game against NIU, and they're still judging Notre Dame from that game against NIU. I think we were both guilty of that, for a long time, but I'll be honest with you. Notre Dame looks a lot different since then. They look like they're a team with confidence. They look like they're a team that has been here before, and, they look like a team that's really talented. So I'll say this too, last part here. I know I touched on their defense. Again, their defense, I mean, they were putting pressure on Gunnar Stockton all night. I mean, they had their tackles on ice skates, if you were. I thought we were back in that Notre Dame-Indiana game all over again when it was 2 degrees or whatever the hell it was outside again. Everybody was bitching about that. That's why Indiana lost. But anyways, I digress. Chris, I want to hear a little more about Penn State here. Kind of tell me a little more about them.
Yeah, Penn State 2-0 in the playoffs. Beat the hell out of SMU in the first round. Basically did the same thing to Boise State, right? I know Genty got right over 100 yards or whatever, but Penn State did a really good job of slowing him down. Obviously, I said this before, I mean, this is a topic for another day, but this playoff bracket, the way it was kind of seeded out, I think Penn State probably had the easiest road. No offense to SMU, no offense to Boise State. They're both good teams. But Penn State did what it needed to do as a good team, went out and blew both of them out for the most part. I got to give it to Penn State as well this season. They probably benefited more from this playoff expansion than any other team in the country. The Nittany Lions were left on the outside, looking in how many years in a row there, Christian. Finally now have gotten the opportunity. They're in the 4 remaining spots, and good for Penn State and James Franklin. I know we talked about him a lot on this channel over the years, and it looks like they finally got it done, and obviously they got more on the line here, but offensively, I think the most important thing that I've seen and what I'm most impressed with Penn State this season is the play of quarterback Drew Aller. I mean, he's come around. He's been playing his best football the last month and a half now. And, his 8.6 yards per attempt is 2 yards, deeper than what it was to start the season. Now, if you guys follow analytics or not, that's a big number. He's more confident. He's throwing the ball down the field. And hooking up with his receivers and his tight end, obviously. I better mention him, Tyler Warren, right? I think he's the X factor in this game. I don't think there's a defense in the country that can really shut this kid down. He's one of those guys that does a little bit of everything. He's 6'6". He's a big kid. He's got great hands. They move him all over the field. They put him in the backfield. Hell, he's even thrown a couple passes this year. He's going to have to come to play in this one if Penn State wants to be successful. And obviously the running back situation here, we talk about them all the time. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. These two are 1A, 1B. They split carries evenly, and they're both very, very good. On the defensive side of the ball, this is where Penn State shines and has always been super solid, right? Abdul Carter, who didn't play a majority of that game against Boise State, he's going to have his hands full in this one against Notre Dame's O-line. This kid obviously is a top 10 pick. This dude is a stud, number 11. Watch him play. He's all over the field. As far as the secondary goes, they've been really good as well, Christian. They have registered 18 interceptions, including 6 so far in the playoffs. So, which will be interesting as I get into my prediction here, because Notre Dame leads the country. I saw the stat the other day, and this is super intriguing. Notre Dame, by far and away, leads the nation in turnover margin. It means they get a lot of turnovers, and they don't turn the ball over. We saw what happened in Georgia, right? That was some of Georgia's problem. They turned the ball over a couple times. Notre Dame did not. They will not beat themselves. My analogy with Notre Dame is, and I don't want to compare them to Iowa, but they remind me of a better version of the Iowa football teams you see. They don't get penalized. They're not going to beat themselves. And that's how they continue winning, right? Now, I know their offense is more impressive than Iowa, but my point is they're just a very fundamentally sound team. Also, before I get in my prediction, Christian, I bet you didn't know this. Notre Dame and Penn State have played each other a total of 19 times in their lifetime. The series is exactly split 9-9-1. So something's got to give here. And as far as my prediction goes, I think this is going to be a knockout, drag-out, old-school type of game like we kind of saw with Georgia and Notre Dame last week. I think this game will be closer. It wouldn't shock me if Penn State won. It wouldn't shock me if Notre Dame won. I think it's going to come down to least mistakes made. Give me Notre Dame in this one, 23, Penn State 20.
Yeah, Chris, I've got Notre Dame 24, Penn State 17.